This damn fat drug I take, it's not working.
We finally beat Medicare.
Well, hello.
All right, welcome on Turks, Jake Huger, Jordan Uhl with you guys. Jordan Uhl of Rebel HQ fame and the host of The Insurgents, which is really a badass name for a podcast. Let's be honest about it, okay? Now, hell of a show for you guys in the first hour alone. At the end of the hour, we are asking this question on tyt.com, and we're gonna try to answer it. I don't even know what my answer is. You don't hear that often. But I want to hear Jordan's opinion. I want to get to it. Anyway, the question is, should Kanye West's pro-Hitler song be banned on all platforms? It's not whether you think it's a good song. No, it's terrible that he did that song. Terrible. The question is, should it be banned? Was it more productive or counterproductive to ban it? So again, I don't know the answer. We're gonna figure it out. But also, several disastrous things from Trump. You're not surprised about that. We'll get to that right in the beginning, and then we got an amazing, terrible story about political correctness in the second hour. But also potentially a really positive development. Potentially, maybe. So hold on, let's see what happens. All right, Jordan, what do you got for us?
We have so much, Jank. Let's jump right into it, starting with this.
President Trump's battle to end birthright citizenship taking center stage at the Supreme Court today.
You claim that there is absolutely no constitutional way to put this aside, to stop a president from an unconstitutional act, a clearly, indisputably unconstitutional act.
I disagree with that.
The Supreme Court heard oral arguments today in a case about the enforcement of President Trump's order to ban birthright citizenship. The main question is not birthright citizenship itself, but rather whether lower courts overstepped their authority by blocking that order on a nationwide basis. Before we get to the oral arguments, we're going to hear from Donald Trump, who went on one of his classic Truth Social rants earlier this morning. But first, Jank, I know you have a lot of thoughts on birthright citizenship. It was in part one of the reasons it helped inspire your candidacy. What do you make of this case, and how do you think the Supreme Court will rule?
Yeah, so there's three different issues here. So number one is birthright citizenship, which should be inarguable. By the way, a little topsy-turvy there, Jordan. So I'm a naturalized citizen. So I believe that all birthright citizenship should be taken away. So I'm one of the few citizens left. No, seriously. But I do have nephews who have birthright citizenship, etc. Because that's how we get citizenship. It's you're born here. That's usually the number one way. Anyways, but there's also the issue of these injunctions from the lower courts. That sounds wonky, but it was really important, which gets to the third and maybe most important issue, which was Amy Coney Barrett grilling the Trump administration on whether they're gonna listen to court orders at all. And then there was one very clear answer to that, and then one disastrous answer to that. So there's a lot to get to here and sort out. So Jordan, take it away, and then we'll analyze.
Let's get to that rant from Donald Trump. He posted this on Truth Social. Birthright citizenship was not meant for people taking vacations to become permanent citizens of the United States of America and bringing their families with them. All the time laughing at the quote suckers that we are. The United States of America is the only country in the world that does this. For what reason, nobody knows. But the drug cartels love it. We are, for the sake of being politically correct, a stupid country. But in actuality, this is the exact opposite of being politically correct. And it is yet another point that leads to the dysfunction of America. Birthright citizenship is about the babies of slaves. It had nothing to do with illegal immigration for people wanting to scam our country from all parts of the world, which they have done for many years. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, first of all, his repeated claim that the US is the only country with birthright citizenship is flat out incorrect, as you can see in this map. There are about 30 other countries that do the same thing, including both of our neighbors. You can see the full list over on the right. Secondly, the 14th Amendment literally could not be any clearer. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So we've established that Trump is flat out wrong. But now let's go back to the Supreme Court case, because that's not nearly as clear as Trump's BS arguments against the merits of birthright citizenship. Before we hear from the justices, here's CBS's legal expert explaining what this case, stemming from Trump's executive order, is really about. Take a look.
Many people sued. Federal judges issued these things called nationwide injunctions, meaning that the executive order can't go into effect, not just with respect to the parties who sued, but with respect to everybody nationwide. And so the question that the court is struggling with is, do federal judges have the power to do that? Do they have the power to say, this executive order, stop it, halt it, not just for the people who walked into my courtroom and asked me, but with respect to everybody, it cannot be implemented anywhere.
So as we wait for the court's decision, we can only make inferences based on some of the lines of questioning from the justices. And so far, from what we can tell, some of the conservative justices seem open to siding with the Trump administration. According to CNN, several conservative justices signaled deep reservations with the ability of lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions, but at the same time seem to be searching for other ways people could, in the short term, stop a policy that would upend more than a century of understanding about American citizenship. The liberals, however, pressed Solicitor General D. John Sauer on what taking away power from lower courts would mean. Justice Sotomayor gave Sauer a hypothetical about what could happen with a different president in charge. Take a look.
You claim that there is absolutely no constitutional way to stop, put this aside, to stop a president from an unconstitutional act, a clearly, indisputably unconstitutional act. So when a new president orders that because there's so much gun violence going on in the country, and he comes in and he says, I have the right to take away the guns from everyone, then people, and he sends out the military to seize everyone's guns. We and the courts have to sit back and wait until every named plaintiff or every plaintiff whose gun is taken comes into court. Taking every gun from every citizen. We couldn't stop that.
I disagree with that.
Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson summarized the Trump team's argument as "catch me if you can." Take a look.
The real concern, I think, is that your argument seems to turn our justice system, in my view at least, into a catch me if you can kind of regime from the standpoint of the executive, where everybody has to have a lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights. Justice Kagan says, let's assume for the purpose of this that you're wrong about the merits, that the government is not allowed to do this under the Constitution, and yet it seems to me that your argument says we get to keep on doing it until everyone who is potentially harmed by it figures out how to file a lawsuit, hire a lawyer, et cetera. And I don't understand how that is remotely consistent with the rule of law.
And finally, although the merits of the birthright citizenship case are not technically in question here, Justice Amy Coney Barrett repeatedly pressed Sauer about why the government is avoiding the merits, and he made a damning admission. Take a look.
This is also a follow-up to some of the questions that others have asked you about the merits of the order not being before us. Did I understand your answer to be because you think percolation is really important for this one?
Yes, but also more fundamentally, it illustrates that the very problem with these nationwide injunctions is they force this rushed, fast and furious decisions on the merits. So I think it'd be very inappropriate in this case to come to a stay application saying, please give us a rushed, decision on the merits of something that's very complex.
But the government's done that in other cases too, right?
Well, those cases would be different. In this case, the example I gave earlier, we think it's very clear cut on the merits. This one is, we concede a novel and sensitive
So this one
question.
isn't clear cut on the merits?
This one, in this case, we want the court to address the remedial issue.
One could say, in other words, they can't defend it because they know it's so blatantly unconstitutional. But Cenk, what do you think the court will decide here? Do you think we should read into Justice Coney Barrett's line of questioning?
Okay, so I have so many things to say about all the different justices in their line of questioning because Amy Coney Barrett had the best questions, to be honest. That was one of them, and then I'm going to get back to a second one that was even more critical in a minute. But so in that question right there, she's getting at, okay, the birthright citizenship issue. Once we get past these issues of, hey, can lower courts do nationwide injunctions? Should they do class action lawsuits? The process issues, right? What do you think about the merits of birthright citizenship? And he just flat out admits, yeah, that was tough on the merits. But that's actually what you guys are going for. All the process stuff is to get to the conclusion where you want to take away people's citizenship. And when she asked him about that, he's like, yeah, I've never seen a lawyer in any court, let alone the Supreme Court, basically say, yeah, my case sucks. Like, he literally said his case is questionable. Okay, not literally in that he didn't use that word, but you heard him right there in that he was saying, yeah, on the merits, it's dicey. So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And actually, one of our members has a good theory on what we're doing here. I'll get to that in a second. Sotomayor had that question that we played for you is also excellent, except I want to tell her why. Okay, I'm largely kidding. You have to set the right legal precedent no matter who's in charge. But man, Republicans, right wing, et cetera, you better be careful with this precedent, because now back to the process issue of, can the lower courts say, hey, listen, you're going to create mayhem here if you start taking away citizenship before the Supreme Court, it goes up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court decides definitively, right? So hold on, that's the injunction, hold on, and let the Supreme Court decide this. And if they say yes, then you could take away citizenship, right? So Trump doesn't want that. He's like, no, I just want to start taking it away right now. Kavanaugh has some good questions about that. But what Sotomayor is saying is, if that's true, if a Democratic president comes in and he goes, okay, so we can do anything we want, and the lower courts can't stop us. They have to wait all the way till it goes up to the Supreme Court, and usually the Supreme Court remands, and then goes back down to the lower courts and all the way back up to the Supreme Court. That could take a long, long time. So her example, I can give 1,000 examples, but her example was, all right, Democrat comes in and goes, all right, I'm seizing all your guns. Good luck, you'll get to the Supreme Court in a year or so, I suppose, but by that time I'll have all your guns. And then you'll have to try to get him back, and then you'll have to go to the courts and the Supreme Court and back and forth, back and forth. No. What if they start doing massively, although this is massively unconstitutional and super clear, but what if the court said, okay, the president said, Democrat or Republican, all right, I'm taking away freedom of the press. All the press is shut down immediately, okay? No one is allowed to broadcast, and certainly no one is allowed to criticize the president. Okay, well, now lower courts can't do anything, so they're gonna shut down every single media organization and then try to restart them a year later when the Supreme Court gets to it? Now that's mental, it's totally mental. The reason why I say shh is because, man, if I had an ally who was president and that rule was in place, I wouldn't do any of the bad things, but I would counsel for us to take significant and massive action and let them sort it out later. It can't stand, that's nuts. So Ketanji Brown Jackson leads to one of our members, right? So why are they even doing this? What's the point of this? Lou B wrote in on TYT.com. Ending birthright citizenship is not only an attack on non-white citizens, it also provides a clear path allowing Trump, et cetera, to deport anyone who disagrees with them. See, that's the thing. and that's partly what Ketanji Brown Jackson was getting at. If you have this rule in place, how are they going to enforce it? And Kavanaugh got to that. I'll get to him in a second. And basically, it would be the president, the executive branch, going, let's investigate that guy. Okay, I don't like that guy. He's been criticizing me. Oh, that's it. He was born here, but his parents once went on a vacation, and does that really count? I don't know if, one of his parents is American, but the other one's Canadian, doesn't count. Doesn't count, now I'm targeting you. I'm removing you, and you, who all criticized me. On this total BS, you're not a citizen anymore, even if you're born in America. So that's part of the point here, a total political attack and an attack on our Constitution. So now we get to Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh's an interesting cat. So he's the one that has this alternative about it, how people can bring up class action lawsuits instead of getting an injunction from the lower courts. Honestly, it makes no sense to me. And Kagan was like, okay, what if they say, all right, we lost that class action lawsuit. Yeah, those people, we can't take away their birthright citizenship, but everyone else we can. There's no answer to that, right? So it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even begin to make any sense as an alternative. On the other hand, Kavanaugh then was like, wait, how are you going to apply this? So, baby gets born in a hospital, gets a birth certificate, you're born in America, so you say US citizen, they write that in. Are you guys gonna go hospital to hospital? Well, yeah, he was born here, but one of his parents was originally from Cambodia 17 years ago. So that one doesn't count, switch it to Cambodian. And by the way, if the lower courts can't do the injunction, they would get to do that for a bunch of people. And then if the Supreme Court rules against them, they'd have to go back and go, okay, sorry, the birth certificate, not Cambodian, back to America. It would be an unbelievable mess, a ridiculous mess. So the fact that the conservative justices are even entertaining this is basically like the Alitos and the Clarence Thomases going, Donald Trump, you can come up with the dumbest thing in the world. And we'll go, maybe we'll create utter mayhem and no one will know who's an American citizen anymore. Because they're all born here. When a baby is born, is the hospital asking, hey, where are the parents from? When did they get here? Are they gonna be the Gestapo that then polices this, right? Or do they just assume the kid's born here, he's an American citizen? If you make the hospitals try to determine where the parents are from, etc., it's gonna be the biggest mess you've ever seen. And everybody's gonna be going to court nonstop. I'm a citizen, no you're not, yes I am, etc. This is just so monumentally stupid. I think Amy Coney Barrett's gonna vote against them on birthright citizenship. I'm curious to see if any of the justices on the merits of the case on birthright citizenship votes with Trump. It might be unanimous 9-0, but if Alito and Thomas do it and the others, it's deeply shameful. So on the process issue, they love to appease Trump that way. Oh yes, Donald Trump, you are making such a good point about the lower courts. We'll create mayhem by saying the lower courts can't stop you. But when it comes back to the Supreme Court on the merits, I'd be shocked if they took away. How would they even take away birthright citizenship? It's right in there in the 14th Amendment. It's the clearest thing in the world. And by the way, if you can do that, then you could take away the Second Amendment, which is way less clear. Because it says it's contingent on a militia. If we're having a conversation about a crystal clear amendment, we'll definitely go back and have a conversation about the Second Amendment. And so last thing for now on Amy Coney Barrett, the one I promised you, Jordan. So she asked, okay, wait, are you guys even gonna follow court orders? Because we're going through this whole rigmarole here, but you keep saying in public that you might not. So she said, if the Second Circuit issues a ruling, will the Trump administration follow it? And Sauer says, general practice is to respect those precedents, but there are circumstances when it is not a categorical practice, and that is not just a new policy. She's like, whoa, wait a minute. So what do you mean it's not general practice to follow what the district courts are saying? He's like, well, it's general practice, but we don't have to do it. She's like, no, you kind of do have to do it. And then he keeps saying not necessarily. And she's like, wait, you say that there's been longstanding exceptions to following the courts. Can you name any other than the Trump administration? He's like, well, it's longstanding. No, in other words, no, he can't. because it's not a thing. They're just making it up that you don't have to listen to the courts. And then finally she presses him all the way on the distinction between the Supreme Court and the lower courts. And he goes, no, we're clear, we will follow the Supreme Court rulings. Well, he's on the record. I don't know if it's worth anything that he's on the record, but at least that's good news, right? But on the lower courts, he's super clear. No, if it's not the Supreme Court, we can choose to ignore it. And that's a disaster. And again, if Republicans can do it, so can Democrats. We're gonna have mayhem and chaos if they win.
Yeah, that just completely undermines and jeopardizes our entire democracy. That is a very serious next step if they are willing to take it that far, but I wouldn't put it past them. On who would side on which side of the case, I think we've seen data over the past couple of years that Amy Coney Barrett has surprisingly sided with liberals the most, which is interesting when you think about the context surrounding her nomination to begin with. People thought she was going to be this extreme far-right draconian justice steeped in a real patriarchal understanding and religious overtones of the country, and she's surprisingly been way more moderate than people expected. Kavanaugh too. I think Kavanaugh, of the conservatives, Kavanaugh has sided with the liberals second most. So I'm with you. If it's 7-2 and it's Thomas and Alito, would not be a surprising outcome, but it is hard to look at what the government is arguing here, what the Solicitor General is arguing here, and think that any of them could think, yeah, that's a sound argument. But if there were any two on the court, it's Thomas and Alito who would find a way to justify it. On the issue itself, though, I think, like we laid out, it is perfectly clear in the 14th Amendment. And I'm disheartened by this effort to begin with, because it to me, it runs contrary to what this country should be. Many of us grew up to see this country as the shining beacon on a hill, a place of opportunity for anyone who around the world who wants to come here, make something of themselves, contribute to this project, contribute to the country. And we are just rolling back the clock and rewriting this country into something that is isolated, hateful, bigoted, lonely, disconnected from the rest of the world. And that's a sad place to be. I really fear for our country and the direction we are heading if policies like this are successfully enacted. The long-term effects would be devastating. And it's just it's rooted in an inhumane view of others, people who are not born here, or people who are immigrants, or to them, people who are not white. But it is a disgusting state of affairs that we are in right now.
Yep. Yeah, but last thing on this. Why go in this direction? Who asked for this? Did the people who voted for Biden but then switched their votes and voted for Trump, that made the difference between 2020 and 2024, did they think, you know what, if only we could end birthright citizenship? No, they were worried about inflation. They were worried about the border. They weren't worried about doing wildly, ridiculously, stupidly unconstitutional things. I don't know why he bothers getting himself in trouble like this. All it does is make him more unpopular. And I guess the answer is he's playing to the most radical, authoritarian part of his base, and that they get super excited at the idea of ignoring the Constitution. But I don't know how large that segment is. I know how large the segment is that hates immigrants. And that's pretty sizable, right? But to the point where you would light the Constitution on fire, I don't think that that's anywhere near as popular as he thinks it is, even among his own voters, let alone the rest of the country, which hates it. Leave the Constitution alone. All right, we got to take a break here. When we come back, Trump starts talking about freedom zone for Gaza again. Sounds disastrous, but hold on. There might actually be potentially really good news buried in there. So let's talk about it when we come back. All right, So we're back. Let's go to YouTube members first, then we'll go to TYT.com members. TYT Rogan says, "Fight." This is a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Whatever you choose to do, leave tracks. That means don't do it just for yourself." I love that quote. That's a great quote by Justice Ginsburg. Diego Shomets writes, "Hi Cenk, it's so nice having you speak to our club yesterday. It was a wonderful way to bridge two worlds together. Happy Thursday." Evan, thanks for saying that, I appreciate it. So we did the Alameda Democratic Club conversation yesterday. We will soon put that up on tyt.com/press so you guys get to see it for yourselves. Great event, I love the questions. And look, I'm just in favor of Democrats having a conversation and making sure that we're finally hearing everyone out and not just the leaders anointing people and censoring everyone else. Hannah Hartman says, "Hey Cenk, now I'm back at tyt.com. I attended the Alameda Democratic Party webinar last night, and I'm curious if you're willing to speak to my local group. If so, how do I get in touch? It was great." So guys, our community director is Cara Eastman, and so Cara Eastman at tyt.com is one way to go. And can I do every one of them? Probably not, but so far, it's not like a lot of Democratic clubs have asked. Normally Democratic clubs, in my experience, if you're a progressive or you're an outsider or you're a populist, they don't want anything to do with you. And is it because of the voters? No, absolutely not. But there's usually somebody in leadership who's like, "Oh, hearing from someone who isn't establishment and pre-approved, no way." And anytime that I've ever run for office, I've been banned from every Democratic club, and it could not speak if my life depended on it. So, and then when people say, "Oh, the Democratic Party is not, doesn't do cancel culture," that's because you've never run. No, they hate anyone who runs who isn't handpicked by some leader. And so, okay, now things are changing though. So if you want me to speak to your Democratic Party club, I'd love that. Let's do as many as we can, and hopefully we'll have others and allies and candidates, et cetera, do likewise and start a great open conversation in the Democratic Party about how to resuscitate the party and make it strong again and representative of the voters again. So I love what Alameda started there. Joseph Hakeem writes in, "Why stop at parents? How about if grandparents are born overseas? Should these Americans be deported?" Yeah, it's just absurd. How about if one parent is, but the other one isn't, right? There's nothing but a dumb mess. Doesn't matter, it's wildly unconstitutional. Dr. Gonzo says, "If Trump actually read or was interested, he would know that former Canadian Prime Minister also wanted to end birthright citizenship, and he was firmly and sternly told no. We voted his ass out." But Dr. Gonzo, that doesn't make any sense. We're the only country stupid enough to have birthright citizenship. Oh, right, so does Canada, and so does almost every country on this continent and in South America, et cetera. He lies with such ease, it's amazing. Wang Jun said, "Think about how ridiculous it is to have your birthright citizenship taken away by people whose ancestors became citizens through colonialism." Yeah, hey, when they came in to Plymouth Rock, did they have papers? Were they documented? Otherwise, everyone that came in the original Mayflower, gone. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. More news, go get them, Jordan.
All right, take a look at this.
There are days that I feel so alone in this chamber as the only Palestinian American serving in Congress. The dehumanization and the anti-Palestinian racism here is painful, especially when my colleagues remain silent on the starvation of children and vote to send more bombs to the Israeli government while they commit war crimes with impunity. I pray that the ongoing Nakba against the Palestinians will end. And one day they will be free.
Representative Rashida Tlaib, the first Palestinian American woman to serve in Congress, broke down in tears on the House floor on Thursday as she talked about the plight of Palestinians in Gaza. She called out Netanyahu and her fellow Congress members for refusing to put an end to the genocide. Take a look.
Israeli forces have killed more than 52,000 Palestinians, and nearly 70% of them were women and children. Babies who did not live to see their first birthday. There are thousands more who are dismembered, unrecognizable, burned alive, buried beneath the rubble, and presumed dead. Each year, our country sends billions of dollars to maintain this apartheid state and support the ongoing ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Our country is complicit, Mr. Speaker, because our nation is funding this genocide. The Israeli government will not stop until we place an arms embargo. Majority of Americans support it. We must save lives, no matter faith or ethnicity. A child is a child.
Despite her pleas and the wishes of most Americans, we will continue to aid Israel. And Donald Trump is now once again signaling that the US is going to participate in ethnically cleansing Palestinians. But before we get to that, Cenk.
Yeah, it's a huge caveat there. There's actually 3 different options for what they could do with Gaza. One's a disaster, one is fantastic, and then the third one is frustrating and will not get to the right result. I'm afraid they're gonna do the third one. But after Jordan gives you all the details here, and oh my God, the genocide here is unreal now. 72 days of starvation. Is the world gonna do anything? It's the cruelty of this current Israeli government is unbearable. And so those 3 options are going to determine everything. And which way does Trump go? And Trump's gonna decide this thing, not Netanyahu, Trump is. And he's a giant wild card. So let's tell you about the current state of the disaster in Gaza, and it's as bad as it has ever been. And then let's talk about, is it gonna get better or worse? And like I said, don't lose hope, because there is one alternative where this thing turns positive in a totally unexpected way.
Now, Donald Trump's messaging on what his intentions are for Gaza have been all over the place. But during a meeting with Netanyahu in April, he said this.
Having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in.
And yesterday he doubled down. During a meeting with business leaders in Qatar, he told the press, Gaza has been a territory of death and destruction for many years. I have concepts for Gaza, and I think are very good. Make it a freedom zone. Let the United States get involved and make it just a freedom zone. I'd be proud to have the United States have it, take it, make it a freedom zone. He described aerial images he's seen of the widespread destruction from Israeli airstrikes on Gaza and said, there's practically no building standing. It's not like you're trying to save something. His comments come as the death toll surpasses 53,000, and that is just an estimate. And the Israeli military is intensifying operations across Gaza. They killed more than 100 people just today and are pledging to continue the bombings. And now Netanyahu is just outright saying that his goal is to drive the Palestinians out. He said this earlier this week. We are destroying more and more homes. They have nowhere to return to. The only inevitable outcome will be the desire of Gazans to emigrate outside of the Gaza Strip. Cenk, you hear Netanyahu's intent, just completely destroy it, drive everyone out. I don't know how I could look at Trump's, freedom zone proposal and find any room for encouragement. So what are we missing here?
Yeah. First of all, let me discourage you further, and then I'll get to the encouragement. Okay. So option number 1 is we do what Israel orders us to do, which is Americans go in there and push the Palestinians out. That's the original Netanyahu plan. So God forbid an Israeli should get hurt doing the ethnic cleansing. And he was trying to, he's like, hey, Miriam gave you all this money, over $300 million. Now you pay us back by Americans dying and being guilty of the genocide and the ethnic cleansing. And then the two places that they would push them to is either the ruins of Rafah or completely out of Gaza into other countries. Now, if you think that that's hyperbole, they're not really gonna, I mean, that's literally the textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. Yeah, so let me share with you reporting from Dropsite News, Jeremy Scahill reporting here, that shows you that is definitively what they're planning to do. And in fact, they actually say it and brag about it. And then I'll get you to the two other options. Okay, Scahill reports Hamas will lay down its weapons, its leaders, this is a Netanyahu statement to his cabinet. Hamas will lay down its weapons, its leaders will be allowed to leave. We will see to the general security in the Gaza Strip and will allow the realization of the Trump plan for voluntary migration, he told his cabinet, referring to Trump's threat to seize Gaza and remove Palestinians from their land. And he said, quote, "This is the plan, we are not hiding this." So they first say, look, we want the hostages back, wink. Our own envoy, Steve Witkoff, said, no, they don't want the hostages back. Israel is delaying peace. They're the ones who want to continue the war, okay? So he says, yeah, well, we want the hostages back, but that's not good enough. We also want everyone in Hamas, who we don't know who they are, to come out somehow and surrender, and presumably they'll be either sent to prison or executed. And so they're going to all voluntarily do that. And then Israel's going to say, okay, we are satisfied enough that all of Hamas has come out and said this, and Palestine will never be allowed to exist as a state, and we will occupy Gaza. So if Hamas agrees to all of that, then we can get to a peace deal. Who would agree to a permanent occupation and give away their land? By definition, that is not at all possible, because that's just saying, okay, we'll give you 100% on what you want, and because we're what? Otherwise, and you know what? Netanyahu is saying, otherwise we'll kill you all or just drive you out militarily anyway. And he says, this is the plan, we're not hiding this. But if you're not convinced, hold on, there's a lot more. Scahill says, on May 4th, the Israeli cabinet approved a plan code-named Operation Gideon's Chariot that it threatened to implement if Hamas did not capitulate to Israel's demands by the time Trump finished his tour of the Gulf. Its explicit aim would be, quote, the conquest of the Gaza Strip, an open-ended occupation enforced by, quote, wide-scale attacks and the destruction of Gaza's remaining infrastructure. Palestinians would be herded into the wasteland of what was once Rafah in southern Gaza. So they're saying, if you don't agree to everything Israel wants, including your own subjugation and the theft of your own land, we're going to drive you into the ruins of Rafah and ethnically cleanse the rest of Gaza Strip and take it. And it is a conquest. So we told you that that was their intention. And when we said that, what did people say? Anti-Semite! How dare you talk about Israel potentially taking Gaza Strip? They're the most moral army in the world. They would never do that. This is only because of self-defense from an attack from years and years ago. And so we had to murder 53,000 civilians. Sorry, there's a couple of Hamas in there. They've never proven that anyone outside of Hamas leadership was ever killed. But okay, let's assume there's some Hamas in there. But the overwhelming majority is civilians. 2/3 are women and children. Approximately 18,000 children killed by the IDF, pretending this is about self-defense. I wouldn't kill one child, let alone 18,000 children for self-defense. I'd say, you know what, kill me instead. If the choice is between me and 18,000 children, really, that's a hard choice for me? I guess it is. I guess for a lot of people who have no morality at all, none whatsoever, they go, who cares, it's just Palestinian children. Just keep murdering them. We'll just blame it on Hamas. Okay, so they're not done with their confessions. So if you're an Israeli supporter, I'm expecting an apology. I told you they were going to try to take Gaza, and you pretended that they weren't. Not pretended, to be fair, a lot of Israeli supporters, they genuinely believe it. They really believe it. And even as they see with their own eyes, and they hear with their own ears that Netanyahu is saying, yeah, it's a goddamn conquest. Of course we're going to take the land. They're like, No, it can't be. It can't be. Israel's the most moral nation that's ever been created. So it can't be that my eyes must be lying to me. Oh, it's all Hamas numbers. It's all Hamas. It's all human shields. It's all what's the next propaganda line I have? No, they're taking the goddamn land. We were right. Every supporter of Israel that pretended that, again, sorry, not pretended, that genuinely believed that they weren't, you were wrong. So are you ever gonna say it? No, no. Israel's the one country that can never be criticized. Jesus, man. All right, they continue. Here's Netanyahu. Quote, there will be no situation where we stop the war. I don't know how it could be clearer than that. He says the situation has changed. In the coming days, we will go in with full force to complete the operation. Completing the operation means subduing Hamas. It means destroying Hamas. When he says subduing and destroying Hamas, he explained earlier that means the conquest of Gaza, that means the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and that means Israel declaring Gaza their own after they drive the Palestinians out. This is a sick terrorist running a nation, and we're funding him endlessly, blank check after blank check. Mr. Terrorist, what would you like? Oh, you're going to murder more children. Oh, you're going to do genocide and ethnic cleansing. Oh, yes, right away, sir. Biden, yes. Kamala Harris, yes. Donald Trump, yes. So far, but hold. Okay, last quote here from Scahill at Dropside News. Netanyahu added that Israel had set up a mechanism to coordinate the removal of Palestinians from Gaza, saying, quote, the main issue is this. We need host countries willing to absorb them. That's what we're working on right now. So in other words, we're going to drive them all out of Gaza and we're going to push them either into the Sinai Desert or whichever other Arab country is willing to take them. And we're just going to steal all of their land in Gaza. And yes, it is stealing. It is definitely stealing the land. And then who cares? Yeah, kill them, drive them out, ethnically cleanse them. This is genocide 101. So now, Rashida Tlaib, before, if she had said genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, she would have been sanctioned. They would have said, oh, that is terrible anti-Semitism. You're not allowed to say things that are true about Israel. Sanctioned, right? But she wasn't sanctioned. That's interesting. Why? Well, a couple of things have happened. Number one, now the genocide is utterly indisputable. If you're disputing that it's a genocide, okay, I mean, you could dispute that the sky is blue and the grass is green, but you sound like a lunatic. I mean, if this isn't a genocide, what the hell is? They're declaring it. They're like saying, yeah, we will drive them all out and we'll kill as many as we need to take their land. How much clearer does it have to be? Okay, so one is that it's indisputable, it doesn't matter. Congress totally, it works for Israel anyway, they can dispute the indisputable. But one of the reasons she's not being sanctioned is because the right wing is starting to swing. And the Tucker Carlson and so many others, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she came on the show and said, we shouldn't give any more money to Israel. I'm not sure I've ever heard a Republican politician in my lifetime say that. Tom Massey, I suppose, probably said that. But outside of that, I mean, they worked 100% for the state of Israel, not for us. So now all of a sudden, their media is changing, some of their politicians are changing. So all of a sudden she's not sanctioned. Israel's beginning to lose some power. So that brings us to option number two. Trump went and talked to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. That was just what this tour was about. But he left Israel out, which is already stunning. Usually you go to Israel, you kiss the ring of Netanyahu or whoever's the Israeli prime minister, and then you go, oh, Israel's the greatest thing that's ever been created. Then you go to the Arab countries and you give a generally insulting speech publicly and then you do some begrudging deal with them, okay? But at the end of the day, you're gonna do a deal because they got a lot of money, okay? But Trump has totally flipped that. So he doesn't go to Israel, he goes to the Arab countries, then he goes and starts taking money from them, right? And so number one, he's got the $400 million jet from Qatar, that's gonna be Air Force One. Number two, he's got several billion-dollar deals he's doing with Qatar and some of the other countries, including Saudi Arabia. So he's just personally benefiting. So he's like, you know Trump, he's like, wait, I wanna be known for peace and these guys are giving me billions of dollars. Where's the question? But wait, the Adelsons gave you over 300 million. He's like, yeah, that was yesterday. And if you don't know that I stiff investors, you're a bit of an idiot. So that's why Netanyahu, when Trump won, he came in like, I own you, right? And then all of a sudden, Trump starts defying him. He's like, wait, what happened? What happened? I thought we purchased you. That was yesterday, brother. Trump never, ever cares about his investors. He always screws them. So now he's like, the Arabs are offering me more money. I guess that's a sad day for you. So now when he brought our freedom zone, Jordan, within the context of those speeches and the context of those deals. And by the way, the other thing is he got a $142 billion arms deal with the Saudis. So I don't know that we should be giving the Saudis and these dictatorships in the Gulf all of these weapons, but we are. And our defense contractors are gonna make a killing from it. And by the way, Jordan, that's another huge part of the puzzle. It's not just Trump. Part of the reason why we support Israel so much is, they have the conspiracy theories about, the Jews run everything. No. There's also a huge Christian Zionist voting bloc, but even more important is the military industrial complex. So they're like, America's gonna pass all these bills that give $20 billion to Israel, but really it's so that Israel can buy our weapons. So it's going to the defense contractors, then Israel is getting those weapons, right? So Israel's super happy, the defense contractors are super happy, and they don't want that gravy train to end. But now Trump comes in and goes, I got a better gravy train. We're gonna arm the Arabs to the teeth. Okay, you guys are gonna make a killing. Before you're making tens of billions, now you're gonna make hundreds of billions. All of a sudden, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, et cetera, they're like, you know what, Israel's kind of optional. All of a sudden, Israel's optional, right? And so when he talked about freedom zone in that context, there's this, the second plan is the US goes in, but we go in with Arab countries. And the Arab countries then run it so that Hamas doesn't and the Palestinian Authority doesn't. And that leads to an independent Palestinian state. Oh, that would be amazing. And there's no reason not to do that. None. And by the way, if he does that, they'll build statues of him all over the Middle East. And overnight, the entire Middle East will turn into our allies. And he'll win the Nobel Peace Prize. Those are, I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating. If he created it, got actual peace in the Middle East and created an independent Palestinian state, guaranteed Nobel Peace Prize. Where's the downside? The Israeli lobby won't give you money anymore. He's not gonna run anyway. There's no downside at all. Okay, the third option, unfortunately, sounds halfway okay, but is disastrous. Third option is they say there's a peace deal, you get the hostages back, that's good. Israel doesn't occupy, the US occupies, bad. And eventually there's loose talk of a Palestinian state at an undetermined time, and whether they'll ever actually have sovereignty in their own military is left to the future. In which case, Netanyahu is gonna find 8,000 ways to destroy that deal. It'll never happen, they'll just wait Trump out, and the next establishment politician will do whatever Israel commands. So it's gotta be option number two. Jordan, the fact that option two now exists is amazing. It's never happened in my lifetime before, and potentially an upside of Donald Trump's corruption. Okay, what do you think?
Oh no, I have zero hope that Trump would be involved in any legitimate peace plan. I think we've seen enough from him to know that that is all a farce. This idea that Donald Trump is some diplomat and peacenik has shown time and time again to be untrue. And what we're going to see here is what we saw telegraphed by Netanyahu and the Israeli government for a year and a half. They are going to destroy all of it. And the time to get in the way, the time to stop it was when Biden was in office. And that's why so many people spoke up and so many people were frustrated. You of course were critical of him throughout. And while this may now, as the culmination of this operation may happen under Trump's watch, the people who are ultimately responsible are Antony Blinken, Joe Biden, all the spokespeople who pretended like they were having serious, tough conversations with Netanyahu and the Israelis about reining in their operation or being mindful of civilians. That was always a lie. They were never legitimately behind the scenes pushing for a ceasefire. And if you mentioned Israeli supporters who pretended like this wasn't a genocide or ethnic cleansing for the first year. I mean, you have to be either stupid or deliberately unwilling to recognize what was happening to have that position. And there are people who spent the first year splitting hairs over the definition of a genocide or the definition of ethnic cleansing. And here you are. What do you have for that? All those people who tried to obfuscate and distract during these conversations, during these debates, during these arguments on behalf of the Israeli government, what do you have to show for it? And you know, you've heard this phrase before. There's a book out now by a Palestinian author about it. One day everyone's going to pretend like they were against this. One day everyone will always have been against this. And when we are presented with situations like this, and Yemen is another example, you have to think about what your role in that is. Is it waiting and seeing until things are bad enough and then you can give it the label of a genocide or ethnic cleansing? Or is it fighting against it from day one? And I think many of us, thankfully, and I know many people watching, were opposed day one, week one, to this escalation from the Israeli government. And what they're talking about in some of these plans, the comment in Jeremy Scahill's article, Palestinians would be herded into the wasteland of what was once Rafah in southern Gaza. Rafah was the safe haven a year ago. That's where people were told to go to escape Israel's bombing and Israel's attacks. And now it is completely destroyed. Same thing with Khan Yunis, same thing with Gaza City. Across the board in Gaza, they were continually told to relocate as Israel then demolished more and more of Gaza. After the first or second refugee camp or hospital was attacked, how could you not see what the ultimate plan was? And unfortunately, there are many people, and some even tried to make this case on this network, that no, that Israel doesn't bomb refugee camps. Israel doesn't bomb hospitals. It's always Hamas. This was a misfire by Hamas. Look around you. Look at the footage and genuinely try to make that case. You are either a liar or you are obtuse. And they're not mutually exclusive. There are many people who still try to make the case that Israel is, like you're saying, the most moral army in the world. The blood on their hands, and ultimately Trump's and Biden's and Blinken's and now Rubio's, untold. We can never have those lives back. It is absolutely disgusting. But on this plan, it's just going to be what Netanyahu wants. No one is brave enough at the top levels of the US government to stand up to him, and he's going to do whatever he wants.
Okay, I've got to comment on a bunch of that stuff. You're 100% right that in hindsight, people always, I was always against it. I never liked Netanyahu. You know, blah, 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 blah. There'll be 1,000 excuses, 1,000. Yes, but did you do anything? Did you say that Israel was wrong and that we should have a two-state solution and that we should have a ceasefire and that the Palestinians should be protected? Or did you use talking points about human shields and how they had it coming and the Palestinians can't ever be trusted? They're not like normal human beings. No, if we give them a state, those savages will immediately attack us. No Israeli supporter is ever allowed to use the word savage again. So because what's happened in Gaza is the definition of savagery, okay? So, okay, that's clear. Number two, the comment about the hospital is so right. Anna said it yesterday too. Remember when we had the debate? And you said, somebody on the network said, that's right, and I'm proud of that. Why am I proud of that? Because we had the conversations, we had the debates, and you all saw it with your own eyes. We didn't shut anything down. We allowed everybody to say their piece, and what happened? The truth won out. We were right. So, and now it's not in question because the debate originally was, this is the thing that Anna mentioned, you mentioned. Remember when that hospital got hit in the beginning, and they're like, no way it was Israel. Israel would never hit a hospital. No, everybody has to retract the story. Israel's the most moral country in the history of the world, and they would never ever. And if you say they would ever hit a hospital, anti-Semite, right? What happened? They destroyed all of the hospitals in Gaza. They leveled 2 of them yesterday. So now we're past 53,000 dead. They've taken 2/3 of Gaza already. So where's the, okay, they would never hit any hospital. They hit every hospital and every university and every school. They destroyed them all. So can I get a confession from the supporters of Israel? You were wrong. Israel, this current government is a bunch of savages, and they destroyed civilization in Gaza. I mean, if Hamas had done this to Israel, Can you imagine if Hamas had done this to Israel? But apparently Israel is allowed to be monsters and say, no, I can do it to Palestinians. Their lives don't matter. I'm gonna keep going. So the one thing I disagree with you, Jordan, on, you said they have to be either stupid or liars. No, you'd be shocked at what bias does to you. Look, I can tell you from my ethnicity, you go talk to perfectly rational Turks, perfectly progressive Turks, and you ask them about Kurds, boom, gone. Bias comes in, their eyes glaze over. No, the Kurds are bad, Turks are the greatest, Turks are the most moral people on the earth, blah, 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 blah. No, bias will blind you to anything, when it comes to these kind of issues. But I am curious, now that Netanyahu is launching this conquest imminently, and he's saying, yes, this is our plan. We are going to take the Palestinian land. We are going to continue to murder them, and we are going to drive them out. Are you still going to hide behind excuses? Are you still going to be biased and go, yeah, no, as long as Israel's the one doing the ethnic cleansing, then I'm okay with it, because excuse number 1, 2, and 3, and every excuse has to do with how Palestinians are savages and violent and can't be trusted and have to be murdered because they're the violent ones, right? And then finally, this Jordan, this idea like, oh, don't trust Trump, he'll never ever do the right thing because he doesn't have good intent and he's not actually a peacemaker. Of course, it isn't about good intent and like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think maybe Donald Trump's heart opened up. No, the only reason he might do it is because of corruption and ego. If he thought they're gonna build statues of him all over the world and he was gonna get a Nobel Peace Prize and he was gonna get to take home a couple of $1 billion, that's why he would do it. It's not complicated and Trump's not a complicated guy. Nevertheless, it is way less likely because still Israel has an enormous amount of power in this country and they are now exercising it in 8,000 different ways. And so that's why on the Qatar jet, oh my God, every ally of Israel is, and again, the jet's wrong, right? But every ally of Israel is out all over media. Every politician, including Republicans, all of a sudden finding a way to oppose Trump, right? Et cetera, and going, no, Qatar's a bunch of terrorist Muslim savages. We have our biggest base in the Middle East in Qatar. If they're such terrorists, why are we working with them? Why are we putting our troops in danger? No, Israel's interests are affected. No, terrorist, anti-Semite. Okay, yeah, try that, go ahead. But you know what's happening? The MAGA base is going, you call me anti-Semite one more goddamn time. I dare you call me anti-Semite one more time, okay? They're had it up to here. So I know I'm out on a limb. I said it at the very beginning of the Trump administration. It's not even a majority likelihood, but is there for the first time a chance, a non-zero chance that they'll get to the right answer because of all the forces that I just explained, the corruption, the ego, et cetera? Yes, there is. Yes, there definitely is. There is a possibility. And if you're not open to that possibility, you're making a giant mistake. Jordan, last thing, I know we're so over here, but you have to encourage that possibility. You have to tell Trump, oh my God, you'll be a hero. But by the way, he would be in that case. Oh, but if you say, nope, I'm just gonna be super pessimistic and I'm gonna yell at him no matter what he does, even if he does the right thing. And you know what? And because if he does the right thing and frees the Palestinians, no, he's still doing other things wrong. Since he's doing other things wrong, I'll never give him credit even though this would be a historic act. I think that's a massive mistake. So do you see that encouraging him to do the right thing, especially encouraging the right wing to push him to do the right thing, might be the right strategy?
I don't have faith in them doing that. Like you just laid out, all of the opposition to this plan is rooted in Islamophobia. Much of it, to be fair. Why would they suddenly take a different tact here? I think what we have seen, especially from the right on foreign policy, going back to the Gulf days, if you want to be accurate, but largely from the war on terror on, it is a jingoistic foreign policy, and that's going to extend to Palestinians as well. So I just am not holding my breath. I mean, sure, I guess I'll encourage you, do the right thing, but like, I feel like it's falling on deaf ears.
But
They've shown
Jordan,
what
how
they
can you say
want.
it's falling on deaf ears? Joe Rogan's talking
They're not
about
doing anything.
it. Like, I'm not just talking about Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and the far right. Rogan, Theo
Tucker
Vaughn,
Carlson's an
endlessly.
anti-Semite. Like Tucker Carlson is a straight up anti-Semite. The reason he's taking that position is because he's an anti-Semite. He is a white
cares?
nationalist.
Like,
That's why
no,
he's doing
Jordan,
it.
I'm being serious. Hold on. If he's an anti-Semite and that's our speculation, okay, that's terrible, and I'm going to deal with that later. But are you trying to discourage him from? Like,
I'm not trying to discourage him. I'm not saying he's going to be an effective messenger to persuade Trump.
Of course he is. Who would be an effective messenger?
How?
A Democrat? That doesn't make any
No,
sense, Jordan.
it's not.
Of course,
Tucker
Tucker Carlson and
also
Marjorie
claimed to
Taylor
be
Greene
against-
are much more likely to persuade Donald Trump than we are. Isn't that the most obvious thing in the world?
No, I'm not saying any of us are going to. He's going to listen to the most powerful in the world. He's going to listen to the military-industrial complex. That is who will reign supreme here. And if Israel wants weapons and they want to continue that cash flow, they're going to have more influence than podcaster Tucker Carlson. It boils down to money. The only reason he's saying that is because he is a white nationalist. You look at his comments on people in the Middle East going back to the 2000s. He sees them as subhuman. Like there are many comments that he made on that shock jock shit.
Jordan, let me. No,
I'm
really mad about this. Hold on.
Why would I lift him up? There are plenty.
No, stop with that nonsense, Jordan. Hold on. Listen.
How is it nonsense?
Okay, here's why. Because you are the people who are saying that, yes, including you, you're being intensely selfish. Let me explain. So Tucker Carlson said we shouldn't go into Iraq after he originally was in favor of it, but after the war started, he said, we shouldn't be there, and I don't want to deal with these monkeys. Now he's talking about Muslims, that's my people, okay? So am I in favor of that? No, absolutely not. So I could choose to do one of two things. If we were back in that time, I could either encourage the Tucker Carlson wing of the party to get out of Iraq, which would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, or I could say, I am morally pure. He was Islamophobic. I banish him and I cancel him. And it's better that I cancel him because of my feelings than we save hundreds of thousands of lives in Iraq. That's intensely selfish. Let it go. Yeah, okay, I don't know what his intentions are, and I don't give a goddamn what his intentions are. You've got to get the right wing. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, Jordan. I'm not saying, I'm not naive. It's not like I don't know. I've been railing against the power of the Israeli lobby and the military industrial complex. But if we just go, oh, nope, I don't want any allies. I don't want allies from the people who are in charge now. How could you not see that that's maniacal and intensely selfish?
Because they're not our allies. When have they ever shown to be an ally?
Right now. They're saying.
No, they're not. They haven't done anything.
Jordan, what the hell do you want him to do? Marjorie Taylor Greene says, I don't want to give any more money.
Because he says one thing, you're like, oh, let's listen to him. He hasn't done anything.
Jordan, I'm not saying go vote for Trump. I'm not saying go support Trump. I'm saying push Trump to do the right thing.
The guy
but
says
you say no. You say no. You say no. You're letting the Palestinians die because of your selfishness. It drives me crazy.
Jake, I have an award for running a ceasefire website that millions of people around the world have used. You're calling me selfish?
Yes, I am. Jordan, you've done.
Because I don't inherently believe one thing that Trump said on camera.
No, it's not about believing, Jordan. It's not about believing. So first of all, Jordan, you have been freaking amazing on this issue. You've been one of the best people in the country on this issue, and I love you for it, okay? But I'm not asking you to be naive and go, oh, I just trust Trump on everything now. I'm asking you to be political and strategic and your normal, incredibly smart self and go, when the right wing comes to our side, we're not going to their side. When they come to our side, whether it's Tucker Carlson or goddamn it, Joe Rogan, when they're all coming to our side, don't tell them, I don't want you. You're an anti-Semite, you're a white nationalist. I don't want you, and I don't believe you. Take yes for an answer. For God's sake, for the Palestinians' sake, Jordan, you've been amazing on this. Please take yes for an answer.
When he does something.
No, we gotta push him to do it, Jordan. By the time he decides to do it or not do it, it's too late. If you just sit back and go, oh, I'm not gonna help the right who wants to stop the funding to Israel, the right who wants to stop the ceasefire, etc. I don't believe them, they're all racist. I don't believe them, I'm not gonna help them. Okay, oh, oops, they didn't have enough power because they had no allies on our side, they had no allies anywhere else. And so we gave up, we sat on our hands, and we were losers and we were pessimistic, and we gave up on the Palestinian people. We just gave up on them because calling Tucker Carlson an anti-Semite was more important to us than saving Palestinian lives. That's my opinion. I can't stand it. I think you're dead wrong on it. I love you. You've been wonderful on this issue. But no, when the other side comes to us on a super important issue where lives are on the line, I don't care about what their past is. And oh, they said the wrong word once. Oh, what do they think about trans people? Are you kidding me? Let's go save some lives. Let's save some lives. We're not in charge. We're not in charge, they're in charge. And when they say, yes, we agree with the left, yes, we agree with Palestinians, the correct answer definitively, inarguably, is yes. Thank you for coming to our side. We will take yes for an answer. Young Turks. All right, unsurprisingly, the audience is split, and that's why we do this show. We need to have a conversation. I don't mind if you disagree with me. Salt to the Union says, Jordan speaking truth so hard, I'll upgrade him from Timu Brett to Dollar General Brett. Okay, you have that going for you, Jordan, whatever the hell that means. Okay. But I like that some of you have Jordan's back, okay? Mr. Fantastic Dragon says, agree 100%, Cenk. You must have an open mind. Don't let anger, rage, and hate blind and fog the mind. Thank you, brother. I'm reading this blind. Gemma Lee says, hi, Jordan, love your views. However, the time for peace was Joe Biden, who deliberately failed. Now I'll take my chances with corrupt Trump taking billions in bribes from the Muslim kingdoms. Why take my chances? Because I had to ever since the Democrats took their much, much smaller bribes to knowingly lose to Trump. So that is definitely true that the Democrats put us in this position. And of course, Jordan did point that out in the middle of the story. Words in the Absurd said, Israel's the most moral army in the world, like Ted Bundy is the most moral prom date for your daughter. Asimov's Prophet says Netanyahu is going to ramp up operations if he thinks he may be losing control and be forced into a deal. Brother, you're right to call yourself a prophet, because I think that that's a great point and one I wish I made earlier. The reason why Netanyahu is now hurrying the ethnic cleansing along is because my read of the stories is that he's now a little bit panicked. And how do you tell that? You tell that because Miriam Adelson's paper in Israel is writing stories about, there's a break between Netanyahu and Trump. And if anybody would know, it would be Miriam Adelson. And so now, since Netanyahu is at least worried about a break, he's hurrying up and trying to finish the genocide as quickly as he can. And then there, Jordan is right. Like, if you're gonna do anything, you gotta go now. If Trump waits, then it's gonna be too late anyway. So the problem is Netanyahu is smarter than Trump. So he's gonna play him 8 ways to Sunday. Okay, let's go to Xerxes 9 at YouTube member section. Cenk's right about Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene being more influential to Trump and his policy, but I get why Jordan feels slimy about working with them. You know what? I'll take it all. I'll take all the slime. I'll take all the hits. I'm the bad guy. I'm not sufficiently left, etc. I'm gonna do everything to get peace in the Middle East and to get an independent Palestinian state. And if you want to say I'm working with X, Y, or Z, and I guarantee you they will. I'm not talking about Jordan. I'm absolutely not at all. He's wonderful on this. By the way, Jordan, you got to give the website in a sec. Anyways, but the New York Times and the mainstream media will later smear me. I don't care. We've got to get the peace and save those people. We'll be right back.
I am Shakespeare.
All right, back on TYT. Hey, Jordan, before we go on, it's Cenk and Jordan, obviously. Can you tell folks your website where they can help Palestinians?
Of course, yeah, ceasefiretoday.com. And whatever action you want to take, as little as signing a petition or emailing your member of Congress, or you can call Congress. There's a button you can use that'll automatically dial it for you. Whatever you want, it's on there. And you don't even have to live in the US. There's actions for people around the world. ceasefiretoday.com.
All right, sounds good. Let's do the last story here for this hour.
All right, take a look at this.
Speaking of the Jews, have you seen Kanye's new song?
Bro.
What is
what? Here's the thing.
What? First of all, kind of catchy.
Well, that's the problem with it.
Well, Kanye West's anti-Semitic song, Heil Hitler, has been banned from major music streaming platforms. It does remain available on Elon Musk's X. That prompted Joe Rogan and comedian Tom Segura, who we showed you at the top, to debate whether banning the song is the right move. Here's more.
The song has so many millions of hits on Twitter. It's been banned from every platform.
Yeah.
But is it good to ban things from platforms, or is it better to let it be out there and let people talk about it? Because if you ban it, then people want to hear it more.
That's true.
And then it becomes more popular, and then it kind of supports what he says, which is that there's this concerted effort, if you talk about Jewish people, that they're going to remove you from everything, remove you from banking, which is what he's saying. They run everything. So if they didn't, like if it was just, you were talking about Puerto Ricans, look what happened to Tony. Nothing.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if there's certain people that you're allowed to pick on and make jokes about or mock or say something, and you can get away with it.
Yeah. Well, I think he's made his point. I think we all get it now.
And the song has racked up nearly 10 million views just on Kanye's account alone, with many more, including many white supremacists and anti-Semitic accounts, gleefully sharing the song on theirs as well. Segura also raised the consequences of the song encouraging anti-Semitic behavior from Kanye's fans. Take a look.
And I've always been like, yeah, say whatever you're gonna say. But I do think like making a catchy song about that, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you're just getting, at a minimum, you're just gonna get more people that think it's cool to say Heil Hitler. Like that's at the minimum.
Well, I think that's part of the program. I think it's part of what he's trying to do.
But I mean, is that cool to do? I guess if you're like, well, it's fun to troll the masses and get them to do that, okay. But what I'm saying is that like at a minimum, you're gonna get less educated people to go like, this is a fun thing to say. And you're like, I mean, is that good? You really want people just walking around and be like, you know, it's tight, man. Heil Hitler. Like, that's insane. It's crazy.
Now, Cenk, up until the show, I had been thinking about this all day, and I still don't know where I fall on this, but I'm curious. Do you think this song should be banned on streaming platforms?
We just had a knockout brawl debate a minute ago on the show, right? I mean, catch the show live, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, okay? So, and now we come to this topic, and both of us are like, I don't know. Okay, and the two of us never say I don't know, right? So we asked it on the website, should Kanye West's pro-Hitler song be banned on all platforms? And apparently you guys don't know, 47 to 53, super close. And it comes out to no on 53. Okay, the live chat has a poll too. Should the song be banned? Let's pull that up in a second. So live chats on YouTube, 60-40, no. Okay, so now 59-41. So this is as tight as it's been in a long time for any topic. And so why? Guys, let's be super clear. The song is terrible. It's I don't mean musically. I mean, to put a song like that out there is despicable. And Kanye West is a grade A moron. And I'm really proud that, as usual, I was the first. And when I said it, what happened back then? People were like, and I'm not talking about when he started the anti-Semitism. He was always a moron. He was always the dumbest person I've ever heard speak. Like whenever he spoke, they'd be like, "Oh, he's genius." No, just because he's decent at music doesn't mean his political opinions are smart. He's always been the dumbest guy in the room, maybe the dumbest guy in the nation. And so when I was saying that, I remember people saying, "Oh no, he's a genius, Cenk. How dare you? He's a musical genius," right? Okay, well, I won that debate. He's a frickin' moron and an idiot, anti-Semite, et cetera, et cetera. So I despise the song, and I'm really worried about what Rogan's guest said there, which is that people think it's catchy and then they start singing it. No, 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 no. On the other hand, if you ban it, God damn it, then it's rebellious and cool and underground and that kind of crap. And so Jordan, I don't know, man, banning hasn't worked. So I'm leaning 53-47 to not banning it. But then if you're not gonna ban it, everybody has to say, yeah, Kanye is a giant ass. And no one should ever do any deals with Kanye, not because you're Jewish, or it's because he's a jerk. He's a terrible human being. So, and then he can go complain about, the Jews. No, brother, it wasn't the Jews. Here, I'm Muslim, born Muslim, now atheist, and I hate you. I think you're an idiot, and I would never do a deal with you, okay? So go cry about that. All right, Jordan, I came out for not banning it, even though I have a long history of despising this moron. What do you come out?
As I think through it, I jump back and forth. The knee-jerk reaction seems like, well, this is heinous. This is deliberately inflammatory and anti-Semitic. Let's get rid of it. And then you think, okay, well, that's like they say. And I think that would be human behavior. Well, people will only seek it out more. It gives it attention, especially in our digital age. When you try to suppress something, it only makes people want to seek it out more. And I think about the consequences of that. And you could think through, like, what would the justification be? And I certainly don't want big tech companies, and I certainly don't want our government dictating what can and can't be said, because while it would start here, and we've already seen it for years, especially like just to go back to our last story, big tech companies have suppressed pro-Palestinian speech online for the past year and a half. You have seen now arrests on college campuses. Like, it's not that this would lead to something worse. We're already in an area where things are worse. And I'm also like, even just talking about it, we're giving him what he wants. Like, he did this specifically because he knew it would upset people so much that it would get way more coverage on his self-released album than if the album didn't include this track. That's it. Or this single.
Look, I don't know how much people are trolling him. I hope a lot, right? But for all the trolls for no reason, they're just getting their kicks and stuff, go troll that guy. And you know what? I know what'll drive him crazy. Do what I do. Keep calling him dumb. He's a super dumb guy. And so he thinks he's a genius. He's like, I got a white shirt, I'm selling it for $250. I'm such a genius. I got a trash bag and I'm selling it for $500 because I'm a genius. No, you're an idiot. That trash bag looks like trash. That's just a white shirt and you're just a hateful idiot. So go do that to him and see if he likes that attention. All right, we gotta go. Jordan, thank you, brother. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you putting up with my yelling and screaming.
Of course.
Okay, so when we come back, problems in the Democratic Party, else terrible. We'll be back. I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And and I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh, and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, A, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah. I'm like, I hit 3 cars. I don't know. So you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad. Really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't want to keep hitting your cars, and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now, baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
People who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
I am Shakespeare in the flesh, Walt Disney.
Shut up!
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, Sharon Reed with you guys. Sharon, good to have you here. A little bit late because I got a little
you were on a roll.
Worked up. I got a little worked up.
It's fine.
Okay.
We love that.
Well, some do. So before we do anything else, though, I got to read one comment from Super Chat because it touched on the debate we had in the last hour. Miss Richie Blackmore wrote in, "My mom is pro-Palestine because of Tucker Carlson, and she converted many of her right-wing friends. Palestinians need all the allies they can get." Great point. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. That's exactly what we were saying in action. So, and I love hearing from your experiences. All right, I'll read more comments in the next social break. And I forgot to say one thing about Kanye. Kanye, you moron. Hitler also hated black people. So he'd have killed you in a second. That's the only part of that that I enjoy is that irony. All right, Sharon, let's get going on the stories here.
He needs a little lesson. American Dream. Watch this.
Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room.
In making his voice heard, ice cream giant Ben & Jerry's co-founder Ben Cohen dragged out of RFK Jr. Senate hearing yesterday to protest Congress's continued support for Israel as they wage war on Gaza. Not going to be quiet about it. Cohen was one of many protesters who went to disrupt a Senate Health Committee hearing where HHS Secretary RFK Jr. was advocating for Trump's budget for the next fiscal year. Now, Cohen, we can tell you, was charged with crowding, obstructing, or incommoding, the Capitol Police said in a statement. That's a misdemeanor that can be punishable by up to 90 days in prison, $500 fine if convicted. 6 other people were also arrested on charges that included assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest, says the New York Times. Before we get into more details, Cenk, initial thoughts on the protest?
Love it. I think Ben Cohen's an American hero. I literally think they're going to make a movie about this. Not that just that scene, but about the resistance within America on this issue of Israel. So I've got a lot more to say about that because there's so much more to that resistance. And now one of our members wrote in something that I find interesting. The world has begun resistance. And so if ever there was a time to protest, this is it. I love it, but let's give you more details and we'll talk about it.
All right, well, if you're wondering why this happened at a health committee hearing, there is a specific reason for that.
Move down the hallway.
Ben, why are you getting arrested?
Move down the hallway. If you stop, you will be arrested.
Poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs and pays for it by kicking kids off Medicaid in the U.S.
Keep going down. Keep going down the hallway.
So in cuffs, being dragged around like that, the answer was perfectly clear and made perfect sense. He goes into a little bit more detail, which of course we'll get into in just a moment. But first, we need to note this type of activism from Cohen is not surprising. Both Cohen and the other half of Ben & Jerry's, Jerry Greenfield, they've been extremely open about their political stances for some time now. And this includes criticizing Israel's occupation of course, the West Bank. So again, speaking up. Watch this.
What is it about Bobby Kennedy that you believe is worth getting arrested for?
It didn't really have anything to do with Bobby Kennedy. What it had to do with is that Congress has been cutting money for Medicaid, the health care for poor kids, and they're using the money they save doing that to bomb other poor kids in Gaza. And now, there's this, they're halting all the food aid that's going in, so they're starving the people of Gaza.
So these founders could just be chilling right now. They don't have to do this. They feel compelled to do it. The two aren't as involved with the company anymore following the sale to Unilever in 2000, but they are still very outspoken along with the company. Ben & Jerry's in 2021 said it would end sales in the Israeli-occupied West Bank because it was inconsistent with the company's values. Co-founders, who are both Jewish, wrote in a 2021 New York Times opinion essay that they supported the company's decision. Additionally, Ben & Jerry's last year sued Unilever over accusations that it had fired the ice cream brand's chief executive because of its social activism and had censored the ice cream maker's attempts to express support for Palestinian refugees. Now, Cohen, who has since been released from police custody, also went on Chris Cuomo's show last night to discuss the protest in more detail. Here's more.
All right, let's talk Israel. Yes, I understand what you're talking about with Medicaid. We'll see what they do. But Israel, yes, what's happening in Gaza is horrible. They just agreed to restart the aid. And I've been critical of the stopping of aid and how necessary it is. But don't you have to give some space for the fact that Hamas, a terror organization, is still holding 6 people just about, and that they need to give them back if they want to have high ground, don't they?
Yes, the hostages need to be returned, but that's no justification to kill tens of thousands of children, old people, mothers, fathers, people just like us.
Well, just like us, some, yes. Others are aligned with a terror organization.
Maybe most are just like us. Things did take a little bit of a turn when Cuomo began defending Israel a bit.
If it were America and they had 59 of our people and they were a terror organization, do you think the United States would be doing anything different than Israel is?
Boy, I would hope they'd be doing something different, because what's going on in Israel right now is genocide with our bombs. The American people have become complicit in the genocide that Israel is engaging in. And if it weren't for us providing the bombs, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Do you pace things? Do you allow any aid the way Israel has if it's really a genocide? We've seen what that looks like in other situations. It doesn't look like this.
Boy, it sure looks like it to me. The major thing here is about a humanitarian disaster. People are being killed. Journalists are being targeted.
Well, that I don't
know. They didn't do anything wrong.
I agree that it is a humanitarian disaster there.
Making it happen.
And there needs to be a lot more aid. Has to be a lot more aid. And I respect you raising your voice.
Cenk, Chris Cuomo is not stupid, okay? I've seen him have some fine hours with his legal cap on, his investigative cap on, maybe at the other place a little bit. I just love the way he just gives a 1-sentence disclaimer about, the aid needs to be restarted. But it's just fascinating to me. It was almost felt like he was reading talking points. And I love how Mr. Cohen stood his ground and made perfect points. Even Cuomo pretending that he doesn't know about the journalists who've been targeted. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. So look, I'm gonna get to Ben Cohen in a second. I'm gonna get to the international protests in a second. First on Chris. So I like Chris as a person, and let's keep in mind that Chris had Ben Cohen on when others didn't, right? And in some of the parts we didn't show, he acknowledged that Ben was right about some things. Okay, so that's your caveat, and it's an important one, okay? So now having said that, almost everything Chris said was totally wrong. So number one, on the journalist, more journalists killed in Gaza than all other conflicts in the world combined. Most killed in any war zone since they've started tracking journalists killed. And I know Israel's excuses. Oh, we're the worst army in the world. We just can't shoot straight. Oh, did we kill another journalist with a headshot from a sniper from hundreds of yards away? Oh, I guess that was collateral damage. Oh, did I see that he had a press? Anyway, for Israeli supporters, they'll make any defense, any excuse. Oh, if Bashar al-Assad had killed more journalists, if Putin had killed more journalists than all of the other conflicts in the world combined, we would all rightfully say Assad and Putin are monsters. But when Netanyahu does it, and everything is ba. So what is this? Oh, we have to give them some space? No, we don't have to give them space for a genocide. We don't have to do that at all. So 59 people, terrible. Of course, everybody wants the hostages back. Does that justify killing about 18,000 children? No, it doesn't justify it even 1%. So if you said to me, you got 59 of your closest family members stuck somewhere, would you like to murder 18,000 children to try to get them back? Well, by the way, they're not even trying to get them back. Our own envoy, a Jewish American, Steve Witkoff, said Israel is the one that doesn't want peace. So that we had to go around them to get the American-Israeli kid back home, and I'm glad we did. But they're blocking peace. Space for what? Space for what? Ethnic cleansing, genocide? No, stop making excuses for a monstrous state. So, oh no, Israel's our special ally. Special ally for what? Why? Why are they our special ally? Oh, well, because what? Because what? If any other country had done this, we would be dead set against it. So, I mean, it was, well, if America had 59 hostages, we would also commit a genocide and we'd also murder 53,000 people, 2/3 of whom are women and children. Yeah, we might. Does that make it a right thing? No. No, it makes it terrible, and I hope to God we wouldn't do that. I hope we'd be moral enough to do that. So look, he says, well, it doesn't look like it. They allow some aid in. That's actually literally not true. 72 days now where they have not allowed any aid in. They're literally starving them to death. If any other dictator in the world was starving people to death, you see little children starving to death, we would rightfully call them a terrorist and one of the worst monsters of our lifetime. But when it comes to Israel, there's always special rules. And so is this what a genocide looks like? Yes, it's exactly what it looks like. In fact, I've studied genocides, and Srebrenica, they killed 6,000 Muslims. Here, there's 53,000 dead. And in Srebrenica, you know what they did? They blocked aid, but then they would send in food so every once in a while, because they said it was easier to attract the Muslims to the food once they were starving, and then you could kill them easier. Now go back and watch the tape of the flour massacre where they start killing people trying to get the food off the truck. I mean, it is textbook genocide. And in Srebrenica, and by the way, in almost every other genocide, including the Armenian genocide, what do? They start forced marches, ethnic cleansing. Oh, we're not killing you. Oh, you happened to die on the way. I mean, we killed a lot of you on the way, and we moved you out and stole your land. But oh, golly gee, we were just doing it for self-defense. That's what they say literally every time. But so they've got to stop making excuses for Israel. So if we had said in the middle of that genocide or the Rwandan genocide or fill in the blank on any country you like, well, to be fair to the Serbs, we've got to give them some space in Bosnia and Srebrenica to slaughter some more Muslims, because the Serbs are doing self-defense, and the Muslims took 59 people or whatever they took, so they had to do it. Or, all right, I'm not getting into or. Okay, back to Ben Cohen, the hero. I love this guy, and so I'll say it. I think they're going to do a Schindler's List kind of movie about the brave Jewish Americans who stood up against Israel. And so Ben Cohen is among them, and his partner is Robert Greenwald. What a beautiful, angelic human being. So he's the head of Brave New Films. They're doing a movie about how Israel has killed more journalists in Gaza than anywhere else. And if Chris doesn't know that, that's okay. I might get caught on a fact here or two, right? But A, you could look it up, and B, you should watch the Brave New Films movie about how many journalists that they've murdered there, brought to you by Robert Greenwald and Brave New Films, let alone Dave Smith and Glenn Greenwald and Bernie Sanders and 1,000 other Jewish Americans who are saying, please stop, this is so terrible. It's terrible for all of us and for America because we're Americans, and America shouldn't fund a genocide and ethnic cleansing. Stop making excuses. All right, finally, one of our members wrote in from Japan. Trump lawyers said on TYT.com, demonstrations and protests here in Japan are getting larger against what Netanyahu's Israeli government forces are doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza, and Trump, US support for this. There's demonstrations now all across the world, and it is not because the Israeli propaganda will be like, oh yes, the Japanese are well-known anti-Semites. That's the only reason they're doing it. Stop with the excuses. So no, everybody's sick of it. And you know what, whether you're Japan, Norway, Finland, Ireland, wherever you are, don't wait for America. America is unfortunately at this point doing whatever Israel commands. And we're the ones who funded all this. So don't wait for us. Start sending in ships. Say, this is the government of Japan and we are here to feed the Palestinians. If the Israelis fire on our ship, we will declare war on them. That's not us declaring it. It will be Israel declaring war on Japan, Finland, Ireland, whoever wants to send ships. You do not fire on our ships. They only have food, and we're going to feed those people, and we're not going to let you starve them to death, you goddamn monsters who run the Israeli government today. Sharon.
Wow. I agree with you. I look forward to taking in documentary, and I think it takes courage. I saw an interview with Senator Sanders, not surprising, yesterday. And he was saying the same things that he's been consistently saying and that our own eyes are seeing. And you're right, I don't want to undermine or demean Chris Cuomo, but look, we're journalists, we've been journalists. He's been all over the world in these regions. It's not about him, but there has to be vigorous pushback. They're at every turn, from NYU not giving someone a diploma because they don't want children and women murdered and everyone murdered in Gaza, to the food not going in. And I saw a little girl hobbling on one leg that had been blown off, wandering like a lot of kids, if they're lucky, looking for food. Much more to come when we come right back. Ice cream.
So I'll never get through all these, but I'll try the best I can. Let's go to Super Chat. Miss Richie Blackmore wrote in again. Tucker Carlson actually interviewed Ben Cohen a couple of weeks ago, and he was in way more agreement with him than the slimy Zionist Chris Cuomo. Look, I'm just reading what they wrote, okay? And so that's an interesting point of view, right? So if we're not supposed to talk to Tucker Carlson and bad guys talk to Tucker Carlson, good guys don't, is anyone gonna argue that Ben Cohen's not a good guy? Ben Cohen's an absolute angel. Okay, so in Guns We Trust, guys like Jordan perpetuate hyper-partisanship between we the people. Have to turn the other cheek with guys like that. Cenk's right, we have to bridge divisions, we agree on a lot more than we think. By the way, don't worry, there's people supporting Jordan that I'll get to their comments a little bit later. I say don't worry just because I want to be balanced. I want to make sure that I represent that as well. Target says, thank you for all your work, Cenk. Thank you, Target. Excuse me, Jonathan Boris Johnny writes in, Cenk standing up for humanity, bring peace in America, actually progressing progressive and populist values. Hatred and failure didn't used to be a hallmark of the left, and it's the Biden wing doing it. The Biden wing has done a lot of bad things. Anyway, Jonathan, thank you for the support. In Guns We Trust, throw it in again. All right, guys. Outstanding reporting on Israel again, Cenk. Glad to hear you guys like Dave Smith, Tucker, etc. on the right side of history. People's true colors showed during this. Glad you guys stood on principles. Maverick Reloaded and Exploded writes in, saw a YouTube clip where CNN covered the news on a large white Afrikaners migrating. Trump calls that white genocide and wants them in the US, yet he deports Muslims or brown people fleeing real war. No evidence, just hypocrisy, sickening double standard. I agree with that 1,000%. They're talking about white genocide. It's a totally fictional thing in South Africa. There's an actual genocide going on in Israel. But again, I know that some on the left don't believe us, but yes, there's a lot of the right wing. Tons of the right wing has turned on Israel. So 0083 says, Cenk Jordan, I'm with you guys. I can't decide on banning this song that's about Kanye. Boone Dragon writes in, this is YouTube members now. Yes, that was a true old school Cenk rant. He is right. Take the win where you can and work on the other issues later. Isn't that how families work? Jonathan Gillespie says, stuff getting spicy. This is why I love TYT. When the hosts get passionate like this for what they believe in, remember, guys, have a beer after the show. Of course, Jordan and I will definitely have a beer. Lee V. Vol says, last time we had a beer together was at his wedding. Cenk is right, but there may be other consequences for propping up right-wing extremist platforms. Jordan has a right to be concerned. Let me read another pro-Jordan one from TYT.com. Cenk, you're so hopeful for the right wing. How's it working out? Jordan is right, Trump's a liar. He only does what benefits him. Can't believe you think he can be pushed. Guys, please concentrate. It's not pushing him to do the right thing for goodness sake. Pushing him towards corruption in that case so that he'll do it. All right, we'll talk. All right, back on TYT, Cenk is sharing with you guys. I just got to finish real quick on one of our members, Charles Cat Lady, wrote in on TYT.com. I was reading it during the break. Guys, please stop thinking of it in terms of, oh, if you work with Donald Trump on one issue or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson on one issue, that means that you think that they're benevolent and angels and they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart and you're a schmuck and you just walk right into it like, oh, I bet she's seen the light, right? No, it's just being strategic and saying we disagree on 19 issues, we agree on this issue. This issue is really important and you guys are in charge. So we'll work with you on this one issue and use whatever advantage that they think is important, right? So for Donald Trump, his ego is important. Money in his pocket is important. So I'm not doing the corruption, I'm against the corruption, I hate the corruption. But if the Qataris are out bribing the Israelis to get the peace and to save the Palestinian people, am I supposed to say Trump don't do it? Like on the corruption, yes, don't do it, right? But if Trump gets to a place for whatever reason that where the right wing and the corruption has pushed him towards peace and protecting the Palestinians, that's a giant if. We all know that's a giant if. But should we make an effort to try to get him to go in that direction since we now for the first time in our lives have right wing allies on this issue? I think the answer is obviously yes. But if you say, no, I don't even want to try. I don't even want to try. Because, all right, anyway, I love you guys. I know you mean well. And these are good conversations. So I'm keeping an open mind on what you're saying. I hope you're keeping an open mind on what I'm saying. So thank you for being part of the community. All right, Sharon, what's next?
It's interesting. Acceptable means to an end. Transactional, but acceptable. Yeah. What's next is grilling the Dems.
I'm interested to know whether the man that you saw sitting there on that couch on that day, you were in there, you saw him up close and personal. Did you really not have any idea that he was not fit to serve a second term?
Why should voters trust Democrats when it's clear so many in your party went to great lengths to keep Biden's condition hidden from the public?
You know, they hate these questions. Tuesday, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer asked about the cognitive decline of President Joe Biden. Yesterday, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries also asked the same question. Let's give you Schumer and Jeffries now.
Casey, we're looking forward. We have the largest Medicaid cut in front of us. We have the whole federal government at risk.
You're facing all of this because you lost a presidential election. And is that not Joe Biden's responsibility for deciding to run again?
We're looking forward.
That's it?
That's it.
And we're not looking backward, we're gonna continue to look forward because at this moment, we've got real problems that need to be addressed on behalf of the American people, including the Republican effort to snatch away health care, snatch away food assistance, and hurt veterans.
It's unbelievable. Moments after Schumer's appearance on CNN, Chuck Todd went ballistic on the senator. Here's that clip.
He is among the people that are responsible for this. The leaders of the Democratic Party, the staff of the White House. And I have to say, I find everybody now talking to these authors, get out of here, go home. You're part of the problem. Now you tell us. So I find, the reason why the Democratic Party has less credibility today. Here's an unpopular president, and the Democratic Party has a worse rating than the Republican Party with this catastrophic governance that we've seen over the last 120 days. And yet, why is the Democratic Party in worse shape? because of this distrust.
Now, it's also worth noting that according to Original Sin, the upcoming book by Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper, Schumer had insight into Biden's declining mental state. Examples. Sometimes the president would call Schumer and after some chit chat admit that he'd forgotten why he'd called. Sometimes he rambled, sometimes he forgot names. In fact, the book alleges that Schumer had a suspicion that Biden could melt down during the debate. Here's a story from June 2024. Schumer, attending a wedding, apparently made a very big confession. Wedding guest who sat at Schumer's table recalled him saying, "If things go south at the debate, me, Barack, Nancy, Hakeem have a plan B," though Schumer would later deny it. Yesterday, Todd raised another damning point. Let's watch him explain how the Biden scandal could sink future presidential runs.
I think this Biden book is only going to not just undermine Biden, but I think make it toxic for anybody that worked for Biden. Because then it becomes, where were you? How did you participate in the cover up? Pete Buttigieg, this may mean something for you. All of these cabinet secretaries are now going to have to answer for all of this. And I do wonder if it's going to make anybody that touches Biden persona non grata, not just anybody directly in the Biden world.
Yeah, Cenk, this thing is taking on a life of its own. It's not going away. No matter other side's doing or not doing or disobeying, it's not going away. And I wonder if you think there's an opportunity there that it will, but also what Chuck Todd said there at the end, that this is toxic to anybody that was next to Biden and knew.
Yeah, so there's an obvious way to handle this, and one Democratic congressman is doing it. You're not going to be overly surprised on who it is. But these guys with this whole talking points of, we don't look forward backwards, we look forwards. I gave that my consultant gave me that talking point. That is why both Hakeem and I are saying the same exact thing. That is a way to avoid responsibility and look like a robot. Can you try being human for a second? Like, so what's so hard about saying, should Biden have run? Well, with the benefit of hindsight, obviously he shouldn't have run. Now, we didn't need hindsight here at the Young Turks. You guys all signed a petition saying, for God's sake, get out of the race in 2023, because it was obvious to anyone with eyes or ears. But okay, I'm not asking you to be as smart as the Young Turks audience, okay? I'm just, if you're a Democratic leader, can you be human for a second? So, okay, who's the congressman who did the right thing? Ro Khanna, as usual, right? And what did he say? So benign. He just said, it's obvious now that he was not in a condition to run. And there was a little bit of outrage over that. What? That's the most obvious thing in the world. If you can't even say that, like this is, Sharon, what they're not getting is, part of the reason why people hate you is because they think you're inauthentic if you're Democratic leadership. They think you lied to them about Joe Biden, which you definitely did. Don't tell me you didn't know. We knew from the public tape, and you talked to him for hours and hours and you didn't know? And I didn't need Jake Tapper's hypocritical ass to tell me that they were all lying. We all knew they were all lying, by the way, including Jake Tapper. Okay, Jake Tapper on TV going to Laura Trump, oh, you're saying cognitive decline. How dare you say cognitive decline? Now the brother writes a book about it? Come on, man, come on. So, and don't make me agree with Chuck Todd, okay? Chuck Todd's right about two things, wrong about one thing. So when he says to Schumer and those guys, you were all complicit in this, he's 100% right. And when he talks about people in the Biden administration, including Buttigieg, you all knew. And then you're all gonna pretend that you didn't know. They barely had any cabinet meetings. And the cabinet members are now leaking all over the place going, we were worried. We didn't know why we only had one cabinet meeting in 2024. That is alarming. And then, when in cabinet meetings, he would, be incoherent, alarming. But of course, they didn't say anything because all of Washington is about ass kissing. Oh, whoever's powerful, we pray to you. So you could peel back the curtain and go, look, the Wizard of Oz is not the all-powerful wizard. He's a guy in mental decline who's fallen apart at the seams. And they'll go, no, He's the all-powerful wizard, and all of our careers and money and prestige are tied to him. So we'll all lie to you en masse and tell you he's 32 years old. Well, that's why you lost. You didn't just lose the election. You lost credibility. The American people don't believe you anymore. I mean, look, think about how utterly incompetent Democratic leaders are. That Donald Trump is a pathological liar, and now the Democrats are seen as bigger liars. That is unbelievable. I mean, if you said to me, Cenk, and you know me, I have been down on Democratic leadership for 2 decades. And as I was telling you guys, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Everybody in mainstream media was telling you, no, they're geniuses, they're playing 4-dimensional chess, okay? And by the way, that's the part where Chuck Todd is wrong. Like, you feel like you were lied to? Brother, you don't have eyes? You couldn't see the public tape? You couldn't see him going, you didn't see that? We all saw it. Where's the invisible dude that he shook hands with? Where is he? Where is he? Come on, guys. You all knew. You're all a bunch of ass kissers who grovel to power. So I'm sick of like Washington going, it's like that Spider-Man meme with the 3 Spider-Mans pointing at each other. It was the media, it was the Democrats, it was Biden. And by the way, I'll tell you how, Sharon, I'll tell you how this whole thing ends. Both establishment Democrats and mainstream media will eventually come back together because they're the same thing. And along, like, the establishment Republicans are also love mainstream media loves them. But for the moment being, it's in this conversation, establishment Democrats and mainstream media, they'll get together and they will all decide that it's all Joe Biden's fault because he doesn't have any power left anymore. None of his family members have any power, so it's easier to throw him under the bus, right? It was all Joe Biden's fault, and they'll conclude at the end that they're all innocent, that none of the politicians are guilty. And by the way, when Buttigieg is running, I guarantee you this, so here we are in the year 2025, I'm telling you in the year 2028, when Buttigieg is running and somebody asked them the question, hey, didn't you know about Biden's condition? Mainstream media anchors will be the first line of defense for Buttigieg. And they will say that that's an outrageous question, an unacceptable question, and that you're not allowed to ask Buttigieg or anyone else about whether they knew about Joe Biden.
But CJ, don't you think, so it's disqualifying to me, okay? But it's also that other part, who's doing the grilling, the complicit inside. There's no better insider game than the media in Washington. And they will give you a Buttigieg. They will give you the next candidate who the people see as not authentic, as someone not truthful, someone they cannot depend on. I just think it's rich that the very people who could have broken, Jake Tapper broke the story for a ton of money and a book deal, but he couldn't tell us the truth every night and on Sundays because he has to have that show too. I mean, I just think this whole thing is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's funny how they always break the story after everything is already over. Oh, they found out that Iraq didn't attack us after we invaded Iraq. They found out that Joe Biden was old. They found out Joe Biden was old after the election. Come on. All right, we gotta go. We'll be right back. Oh, okay, I'm doing comments. Oh, interesting. I thought we had another commercial break. No, we don't have enough time. Okay, I'm talking to the stage manager, so what? Okay, Sharon, I'm gonna read comments since we don't have enough time for a story. But everybody, bonus episodes coming up in 3 minutes. Okay, so good time to be a member. Hit the join button below or tyt.com/join. By the way, I mean, look, if you like this open conversation, support the show. You can do it for free. You could ring the bell. That way you get more updates about the show. You can subscribe for free, or again, if you like what you're hearing, you like that we have open minds and open conversations, then hit the join button below, like I said. So I'll read another one that's critical of me on Twitch. Octo Squiddy says Tucker perpetuates the great replacement theory, but at least he's anti-war for 5 minutes because it's popular with MAGA. But Octo Squiddy, you write in all the time, good viewer, member, etc. I appreciate you. But think about it. Think about what you just said. Because it's popular with MAGA, so shouldn't we encourage them to make it even more popular with MAGA to take away funding from Israel so they stop the genocide? Why wouldn't that be a good thing? And if he's doing it for 5 minutes, I'm not giving Tucker Carlson a prize. I'm just encouraging him to go in the same direction that he's going in now. And is there anything preventing me from saying the great replacement theory is nonsense? If I agree with Tucker when he agrees with me, does that mean that my teeth fall out and I'm not allowed to talk after that and that's it? I can't oppose him on anything else? So like this idea of don't ever agree with anybody in the right wing, even one time. But when they agree with you, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. So if they were for universal health care, do we have to be against universal health care? Or do we have to say, well, they're for universal health care, but he's an anti-Semite, so nobody's gonna talk to him. No one should encourage universal health care. It doesn't make sense, guys. I love you. I know that you're passionate about the terrible things that those folks have said. And you're right to be passionate about that. But we have to look at the situation that we're in now, and we have to try to save as many lives as we can in Gaza. Okay, Notorious ROB on Twitch wrote, Ben offering to pay to get the others out of any legal trouble was amazing. Again, Ben Cohen, total hero. Captain Contralia says, love the passion Cenk and Jordan have on the Gaza issue. Not many people can out-Cenk in a shouting match. Yeah, another credit to Jordan. Desperado wrote in, it's sick to realize, but it seems that in order to get Trump to finally do the right thing by Palestine, the Arab countries may have out-AIPAC'd AIPAC. And that's exactly what I'm saying, that makes sense. It's just Vegas says, and by the way, how sick is our system that we have to do these where foreign governments get into a competition about who could outbribe our president. It's sick. All right, we've got a lot more. TYT.com/join or hit the join button, and we'll see you in the member section.